Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well. So over here next to me, I am hoping, I am praying, I am crossing my fingers that this is the final stage, the ending of the ongoing A$AP Rocky Sweden assault case saga. So A$AP Rocky, New York rapper, basically flagship member of the A$AP mob. You must know who he is at this point, and hopefully you would be aware of this case by now, where the dude was in Sweden. He got into a street tussle with a couple of dudes who him and his entourage were having some very tense exchanges with. Some of the video coming out of these exchanges and that fight that came afterwards was not all too pretty, and then A$AP ended up detained as a result of all of this. Now, if you haven't caught the play-by-play, or at least some of it, because the video that A$AP Rocky put on his Instagram of most of this situation is somewhat edited. The most questionable bits that one would not want to be shown in court don't end up in this video. I would say a turning point in this series of exchanges occurs in this video on A$AP's Instagram at about the 20-second mark. Now, what's also key about this moment in the video is that there is a cut immediately after this point in the video. These two guys on the street who were bugging A$AP Rocky and his crew for whatever reason they were. Things were getting progressively ugly between these two men and A$AP Rocky's bodyguard, the bodyguard for the group of people A$AP Rocky was running with, which is fine. That's to be expected. This man is crowd control. This man is effectively an on-the-go bouncer. If somebody is bugging you, it's this person's job to get in the way and prevent that person from bugging you. But at the 20-second mark, where it is very clear that A$AP Rocky, his crew, and this bodyguard want these guys to go away and leave them alone, the bodyguard then has a bit of a physical exchange with this dude. It looks like it is initiating at this point at the 20-second mark, where he threatens the guy, and then it looks like he's about to make a fast move. You can see his shoulders are tilted here like he's going to launch the guy into heaven because the bodyguard looks gigantic. It looks like he's about to make a fast move, and then there's a cut. And then it's immediately after this point that you see the guy freaking out, throwing his headphones, going ballistic. And of course, the guy is mega pissed at this point, not only because there has been some physical interaction here, but also he seems to be really mad about his headphones, that it's also pretty much his fault that he's busted. However, the harassment continues past this point. These two guys can just not let this go. They cannot let A$AP Rocky and his crew out of their sight, even though the issues that they're having with them mostly seem to sit with the security guard, mostly seem to sit with the guy who is essentially the muscle in the group. Now, keep in mind, at this point, I don't really think anything has happened that is all that horrible. And from what I understand, the two dudes that they were having this tense exchange with, as well as the bodyguard here, didn't end up getting charged with anything. Eventually, we progress to a point where it seems like Rocky and his crew are just fed up with what these guys are doing and how obnoxious they are, and they run out from behind the bodyguard and they just like start beating this dude down. Not only do they take him down, but he's on the ground, they're hitting, they're kicking, they're punching, everything. I could look at this situation moralistically from my subjective moral view and say, these two guys are being asses, they're annoying as hell. At the end of the video, they were disrespecting women too. Not that that really matters in a court situation, but you could take in all of these bits of information and say, yeah, they pretty much had like an ass whooping coming their way. They most definitely did. However, technically, in a court of law, even in America, since those guys have not laid hands on you and that continuing physical altercation is happening between these two aggressors and a guy who is employed to physically handle this situation, you cannot just then jump in when this dude's life is clearly not in danger and just start taking these guys out, pounding them on the ground. That is not going to be perceived as self-defense in any court system. And I would say that's especially the case in a court system overseas, where you're going to have a court that is going to look at you more skeptically, not only because you're a person of color, because let's admit it, there is racial bias throughout many Western court systems, but on top of it, you're American. They're going to try to make an example of you. They don't want to set a precedent where Americans can just come over, do whatever they want, and get off scot-free because they're from the US or they're celebrities. So even though I can admit I would personally want to kick these dudes' asses right there in the middle of the street, I would be severely tempted to just like get my boot in one of those two dudes' asses. I'm not surprised that a court system or a judge looked at this video and looked at that fight and said, yeah, it's not technically self-defense, especially when you're in a situation where the person is on the ground and you're just beating on them. That's not really a self-defense situation at that point. You're just taking your anger with that person out on that person. You're not acting to defend yourself at that point. So while I get these guys were annoying, I get that they were assholes. I'm not arguing that the two dudes that were chasing down A$AP Rocky and his crew were good guys. They obviously weren't. But, if you are a music celebrity, you need to keep into account that people are going to test you. Okay, especially if you're a rapper who talks tough in their music. People are gonna test you. You're famous. You have a target on your back. I would recommend that when you go out, do not go out without security. And if something does happen, allow that security person or people to do their job. Now, I know that that's not a guarantee that everything is going to work out. I saw another freaky video that we can just have a frame of right here because I don't want to have too much violence in this video of what seemed like Future's bodyguard, like getting attacked from the back, totally knocked out while they were in Europe. Again, scary as hell. But still, when you're in these situations, try to react to them as smartly as possible. Talk with people who you know, people you're traveling with, talk with your security, have a game plan so that if something does go down and someone is in danger and someone is attacked, that you actually are defending yourself, that you know what to do and you're not overextending yourself physically in a way where you are putting yourself in legal jeopardy. Just be careful with any choices that you make along these lines in the future, even if in the moment it may feel really good to run your fist into the face of somebody who is a shit talker, an asshole, somebody who won't leave you alone. Ultimately, it's just not worth it. You have money to make, you have fans to please, you have an industry to dominate. Do that instead. I think I'm going to leave it at that. Those are my thoughts on this whole situation. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, A$AP Rocky, Sweden, back home, awesome, glad he's free, forever.